How's it going, everybody? CJ here, back with another video. We're doing a first thought today. This first thought is on Zabaz the Glimmerwasp. Before we hop into that, though, remember, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We are right at the cusp of 1,000 subscribers, so please just hit that button. Also, comment on this video and like this video. And in the description of this video, we got the compiled link, which includes the Patreon, the TCG Player Affiliate, and my personal store, if you want to support the channel through any of those routes. And we've also got the Twitch, Twitter, Discord, and TikTok. So you can check all that out in the description. And we're going to hop into this. So I'm going to change things up a little bit from how I normally do these first thoughts. And I'm going to add a little overview in the beginning of these. And I'm going to do that for the next few and see how that goes. So I'm just going to run through what all the categories I'll be talking about today is. So that way you know what's coming ahead. So the first category I'm going to talk about is modular cards. Then I'll be moving on to +1/+1 counter synergy cards. Cards that seem like they're good to sacrifice/destroy using Zabaz's ability. Artifact Shenanigans, because this could make a very cool artifact in and out of the graveyard reanimator style deck. And the next up is Voltron. I think this could be a fun Voltron commander, so I'll be talking about all the Voltron strategies that you can do with this. And then some one-off cards after that. And so yeah, we're going to hop into this. So starting off with modular. Unfortunately, a lot of the modular creatures are pretty subpar, but if you're going to want to run more modular cards so you can take advantage of that extra counter, then these are some of the cards you could do. Arcbound Crusher. Whenever another artifact enters, you put a counter on it, so that's actually a pretty good one. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There's Arcbound Fiend, which at the beginning of your upkeep, you may move a counter from target creature to it, which is kind of cool. There's Arcbound Lancer, which is just a first strike modular card, modular 4, so it's a 4 counters on it right away, so that's pretty decent. There's Arcbound Mouser, which is from the new set, Modern Horizons 2. Just a 1-mana modular 1 lifelinker, so that's kind of cool. Arcbound Overseer, at the beginning of your upkeep, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature of modular you control. That seems very synergistic in the deck. There's Artbound Ravager, probably one of the best modular cards that there is. You can sacrifice artifacts, put +1/+1 counters on it, and it starts with modular 1. This card is definitely a good include. Arcbound Reclaimer. Remove a +1/+1 counter from Arcbound Reclaimer to put target artifact card from your graveyard on top of your library. That seems fantastic. That's a great card in this deck. Artbound Shikari. It's another new card from Modern Horizons 2. And enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each other artifact creature you control. That seems great. That's going to put a lot of counters around, so that's an auto include. Artbound Stinger. It's just a 2-mana 1/1 flyer, basically. Arcbound Whelp. Another one from Modern Horizons 2. It's a 4-mana modular 2 flyer with fire breathing, so it's kind of cool. And Scrapyard Recombiner, so that way you can tutor out any of the constructs in your deck that you want. And there's going to be a decent number of constructs just because it's going to be a very artifact-heavy deck. So that card could put in a lot of work. Next up, we're going to talk about the counter synergies, the +1/+1 counter synergies. First off, probably one of the best cards for this deck, the Ozoth. So the Ozoth is just very powerful when it comes to artifact +1/+1 counter synergies. You can just do so much, move counters all over the place, and it's just helpful. It's just helpful if you want to save counters for something or move counters from one thing to another. Like, it's a good card. It's a good card. There's Abzan Battle Priest to give anything with a +1/+1 counter on it lifelink. Seems pretty good to give Zabaz lifelink. There's Alharu Solemn Ritualist, which enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each of the 2 target creatures. Okay. Whenever a non-token creature you control the +1/+1 counter on it dies, you create a 1/1 white spirit creature token of flying. So this is going to work really well with the modular creatures and really most of the creatures in this deck because you're going to be moving a lot of counters around so you can get tokens out of them. Other cards that actually do similar things to that, you've got Basri's Lieutenant, which is very similar. There is that's the only one. That's the only other one I have written down that does that. But yeah, there's good ways to get extra tokens out of your counters. Animation Module can get you tokens out of your counters, but it's when the counter is put on the creature, then you can pay 1 and create a token. Seems pretty decent. Crystalline Crawler, you can just stick tokens on this thing and turn those or counters on this thing and turn those counters into mana. Seems great. There's Extruder, which is a new card from Modern Horizons 2 again. It's just got a sacrifice outlet for artifacts that lets you put +1/+1 counters on target creatures. So that seems pretty good, pretty synergistic in the deck. Felidar Retreat, your lands turn into +1/+1 counters on all your creatures or tokens if you need to. And you're going to actually be running a decent number of token creators in this deck, so you could consider running an Oithered Procession if you want to. Cathar's Crusade seems fantastic, just a really good way to put a lot of counters around. Mikaeus the Lunarch, similar thing, just you can tap it to throw counters on everything else, and it's easy to get counters back onto it. Mindless Automaton lets you turn counters into card draw. Steel Overseer, similar to Mikaeus, just tap it, throw counters all over the place. And Walking Ballista, turn those counters into damage, why not? Next up, I'm going to talk about artifacts that seem synergistic with Zabaz because of Zabaz's destroy target artifact you control ability. So these are artifacts that have death triggers or goes to the graveyard triggers. So Ichor Wellspring and Mycosynth Wellspring, both those seem great. Card draw, ramp, or card... Is it actually ramp or is it a fixing card? Let me double check it. Sorry about this. It's just mana fixing, but it's still solid. It's still a very solid card. There's Scrap Trawler, Junk Diver, Mere Retriever, and Workshop Assistant, which all let you get stuff back from your graveyard when they die. So those are all super synergistic in this deck. Like very much auto includes there. Spine of Ishsa seems pretty good. It's 7 mana to destroy anything, and then when it dies, it goes back to your hand, so it's just kind of like able to recur as long as you have a lot of mana. Ugin's Nexus can just give you extra turns. That seems pretty fun. Cathodian makes you mana when it dies, so you can kind of store mana on it, sack it when you need it. You got Solemn Simulacrum to draw cards and get lands, and that's a really fun one to like Goblin Welder in and out of play. I love that card. Filigree Familiar gets you life, gets you cards, seems good. You have Rune Grinder, which is just a wheel on a stick. Once it dies, once you pop it, you wheel, seems fun. Wormcoil Engine, Triplicate Titan, and Phyrexian Triniform all give you a bunch of tokens when they die, and they're all very powerful cards. Plus, Phyrexian Triniform has Encore, which is very powerful effect in this deck. That seems fun. And that's all the cards I have that are good to sacrifice to Zabaz. Now I'm just going to talk about some artifact shenanigans you can pull off, because this could be a very, very good, just artifacts continuously going in and out of the graveyard, coming into, like, getting all these triggers, doing fun stuff. This could be a very fun commander for that. And some of the key cards you could throw in Osgir, Daretti, Goblin Engineer, Goblin Welder, and Trash for Treasure. All of these let you cycle stuff in and out of your graveyard. Osgir is exiling them, but it gets you 2, so it's kind of like give and take there. But I think it seems pretty good. You got Low Shield, Clockwork Scholar, extra card draw. You got Dig Site Engineer, which can give you Constructs, which seems pretty solid. Quicksmith Genius for card selection, and the discard outlet is really nice because you can discard something that you'd want to like Goblin Welder back into play. Audacious Reshapers, you can turn your bad artifacts into something crazy out of your deck. We got Foundry Inspector to make your artifacts cost less. Reckless Fireweaver to deal damage every time an artifact enters the battlefield. Aethersworn Canonist to kind of slow your opponents down while it won't affect you too much because most of your spells are going to be artifact spells anyways. Santan Gargoyle, which I should have written down because I do not remember at all what this card does. Actually, I think this is one of the... Enters the battlefield, you return something from your graveyard to your hand. That seems pretty solid in the deck. It's similar to like the Junk Divers, except this enters the battlefield instead of dies. You have Slowbad, Goblin Tinkerer, and he's pretty good sacrifice outlet, plus you can protect your important artifacts. Tashar, Ancestor's Apostle, good reanimation, triggers when you cast an artifact, seems like an auto-include. Lodestone Golem, not going to affect you too much, but it's going to slow your opponents down for sure. Mystic Forge, seems pretty sweet, lets you cast artifacts off your library, it's a fun card. And some other ways to just get cards into your graveyard so that way you can reanimate them. Like certain artifacts that you just do not want to cast, like Phyrexian Triniform, but you want to bring back for free. You can use Cathartic Reunion, Thrilling Discovery, Tormenting Voice, and Faithless Looting. All those seem fantastic. You've also got stuff like Meteor Golem that you can use to reanimate and blow stuff up. Like there's a lot of very big artifacts that you can reanimate. That would be a lot of fun. And you can kind of just pick whatever you want from that. But unfortunately, Blightsteel Colossus doesn't work because it shuffles back into your library. But there's a lot of other choices. Next, I'm going to talk about Zabaz is a Voltron commander. So I'm not going to talk about all the different equipment that you can use for it because there's just tons and tons of equipment. I mean, the swords of X and Y are all very, very good. Those should be included, stuff like that. But Bloodforged Battle Axe is another one. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about equipment. You've got Hammer of Nazan, Darksteel Plate. You've got Luxodon Warhammer. There's a bunch of good ones. There's a bunch of good. Blackblade Reforged. These are just the ones that come off the top of my head. I didn't write any of those. I didn't write anything down for that. I was just not going to talk about that. But so those are some very good equipment that you can throw in the deck to pump up Zabaz. And some cards that work really well with the equipment include Halvar. You've got Sigarda's Aid, which is a disgusting card in an equipment-based deck. There's Arden, which lets you just move stuff around, which is nice. Similar to Pure Steel Paladin, which is very powerful. Pure Steel Paladin plus Leonin Shikari, really, really good combination there. You can throw in like a Swiftfoot Boots or a Lightning Graves, and you can just basically give your entire board Hexproof or Shroud whenever you need to, or Darksteel Plate do the same thing. You can just bounce stuff around like crazy whenever you need to. That's awesome. That's a really awesome synergy. Open the Armory lets you tutor out whatever you need. You can also use Steel Shaper's Gift and Enlightened Tutor for that. SRAM gives you extra card draw. Armored Sky Hunter lets you get some stuff out of the top of your library. You got Rayav, which gives all your equipped creature double strike when it attacks. That seems pretty powerful. Stoneforge Mystic, another tutor that can also let you drop stuff into play. Stonehewer Giant lets you just tutor from your deck directly into play. That card's sweet. And Brass Squire, just another way to equip for free. And Zerta, to just lower the equip cost. Seems pretty good in the deck. And now we're on to the one-off cards. Just a few one-off cards I want to talk about here. Luminous Broodmoth seems like a fun one in the deck. If you're sacrificing artifact creatures, this way they come back with a flying counter on them, so you can sacrifice them again. It just makes it so you get the extra triggers and extra stuff going into play. It's an awesome card in the deck. You have Nesting Grounds to move counters around if you need to. Hangerback Walker can make a ton of tokens, and it's really good with the plus and counter synergies. And Lifeline, another one that's similar to Luminous Broodmoth. Doesn't see a lot of play, but I think it would be pretty good in this deck. Whenever a creature dies, Brave turn it to play if there's another creature in play, so you can just really cycle your, what's it called? Your, oh my god. Your artifact creatures. Sorry, wow. I just had a huge brain fart. But then just sacrifice them over and over and over again. Actually, I think Lifeline should be played way more often than it is, because with like a free sack outlet, that should just be infinite. Oh, it's at the end of turn. It's at the end of turn. Okay, good. It's not just busted. But it's still very good in this deck. Very, very good in this deck, because you can sacrifice everything once a turn. Like once during your turn, once during your opponent's turn, the next opponent's turn, and get a bunch of extra triggers, which is really nice. And that is everything I have for Zabaz the Glimmerwasp. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Peace out, everybody.